morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice for Radio. So today, we're going to be taking a look at a new Crabominable deck, which has been kind of doing the rounds over in Japan, seeing a little bit of success. And when it comes out in Unified Minds, he's going to come, and he's going to be here with his boy Groudon, and it's going to be an awful lot of fun. So Crabominable then, what does it actually do? Well, it's got a nice little ability saying it takes 30 less from attacks, and it starts off with 140 HP, which is high. And you can't really turn off non-GX abilities at the moment, so you're basically rocking there with an effective HP of 170 for the entire game, and that's kind of cool. And then we have an attack here for 2 fighting and 1 colourless energy that does 80 damage, which is not terribly impressive. But if you have 2 fighting, 1 water energy, then you do 160 damage. Oh yeah! Yeah, now that, ladies and gentlemen, is pretty gosh darned cool. Okay, I am all in favour of this now. Free energy, 160 damage on a Pokemon with an effective HP of 170. You can count me in. But where's the energy coming from? Well, actually, that's where Groudon comes in. You see, ladies and gentlemen, Groudon was also coming around in Remix Bout. It will also be in Cosmic Eclipse. And it's got a really nice attack for a single colourless energy that allows you to attach 2 fighting energy from your hand to one of your Pokemon. Now this, I can get behind. Because it also means, you know you're going to be playing some water energy, right? But if you've only got water energy, you can actually attach that and it will still totally work. And this is what you do. You have Groudon attaching 2 fighting energy to a Crabominable, and hopefully you can get that attack off a couple of times. And then you just need a water energy to be sitting there hitting for 160. It's slightly awkward, in that you kind of do need 1 Groudon attack per Crabominable attack, but you're hitting 160 damage, so you're going to be taking a bunch of KOs, and you've got essentially 170 HP on a single prize Pokemon. That's kind of cool, ladies and gentlemen. That's kind of cool. If you can keep Crabominable alive to have a couple of attacks, you are going to be winning a whole bunch of games here. Now, there are a couple of other Pokemon, but don't get terribly excited. We've got Diancie Prism Star, which means you do an extra 20 damage. Now, you're not actually doing 160, you're doing 180, although you're not actually doing 180 if you choose to play Martial Arts Dojo. This particular deck chose not to, but it is an option you should consider moving forward with this particular deck. And the other Pokemon you play here, now there was 1 Tapu Lele in this list. Obviously, we are thinking post-rotation here, but it's very easy to just take out Tapu Lele and whack in a Dedenne GX. Boom. Then your Pokemon line is completely sorted. Now, one of the issues for this deck, post-rotation, just like the Excadrill deck we talked about, I want to say yesterday, but we'll have to wait and see, is the fact that it really relies on Ultra Ball and Nest Ball, and unfortunately, they're both rotating. Now, one of the things we've got at the moment that a lot of people are choosing to use instead is Professor Round's Lecture. Professor Round's Lecture, great card, lets you search for free Pokemon with 60 HP or less. Can anyone see the problem here? Crabominable, by which I mean Crabominable from which it evolves, does not have 60 or less HP. It's actually got 80, which isn't particularly close. And that's the issue we're finding here. The one from Unbroken Bonds also had 80 HP. And that means that we're just really struggling here to actually be getting our Pokemon out. What I suggested back when I was talking about the Excadrill deck was using Professor Round's setting, which let you search for free Pokemon of different types and put them straight onto your bench. The problem is, everything here is fighting other than your Dedenne, which doesn't want to go straight to the bench because you don't get the ability. This deck is good, but you are going to have to find a way to get the Pokemon out post-rotation. You can use stuff like Pidgeotto with Professor Round's Lecture, and that might work. That's what some decks have been doing. Similarly, you've got Pokemon Communication, which can get your, well, lets you swap one Pokemon for another. There are ways to do it, and they would be 2 of my top ways, incidentally. But that is something you need to bear in mind. In terms of supporter line, we're doing a lot better. We've got Lily, which is a good draw card. We've got Cynthia, and Lily and Cynthia really are the two best draw cards in the game. Lily lets you draw till you got 6 cards in hand. Cynthia shuffles your hand into your deck, draws 6 cards. But we also play Lady here, and that shouldn't surprise you. Search your deck for 4 basic energy, reveal them, put them into your hand. Well, once you've got a Groudon in the active, what you really want is 2 fighting energy to attach using Groudon's attack, and then a water energy to attach as your attachment for the turn. Lady gets you them and another one. That seems pretty good. We've also got Tate and Liza here. Lets you shove your hand into your deck and draw 5 cards, but it also works as a switch. And we also play a full 4 switches here. Why do we do that? Very simply, you want to be switching between Groudon to attach energy and Crabominable when you've got energy. That's very important. So you know what? You need to do this. Needs to happen, ladies and gentlemen. It needs to happen. Switching is good in this deck. We're playing a bunch of switching cards. We've also got a karate belt in here, and it's not a main part of the deck, but it's really nice to just reduce the energy cost by 1 fighting energy if you're behind on prizes. Now, annoyingly, this won't work for Groudon, but then again, if you've got Groudon in the active and you're behind on prizes, you could argue that's not a great position to be in. And it's just nice to turn Crabominable into basically 1 fighting, 1 water energy. I'm all in favour of that. We then have 1 copy of Energy Retrieval, which gets your energy back from the discard pile, and 1 copy of Reset Stamp. Reset Stamp is, it should be a staple in every deck at this point, right? Force your opponent shuffle a hand into their deck, draw a number of cards equal to their remaining prizes. It should be in every deck at the moment. Now, more so than a lot of the decks we've looked at on this channel, this deck is going to be one that suffers post-rotation. The Pokemon line is fine. The Pokemon search is a bit of an issue, but then we're losing a few other cards. We're losing Rescue Stretcher. Now, to be fair, Rescue Stretcher can be replaced by Brock's Grit. You got to find yourself a turn where you don't mind using it as your supporter, but generally speaking, it's not the biggest loss ever. You'll probably be okay. And then you're losing Field Blower, but then everyone's losing Field Blower. Field Blower isn't a huge issue. But then you're losing Counter Energy. And Counter Energy is phenomenal, because Counter Energy allows you to go Karate Bout, Counter Energy, and if you're behind on prizes, that basically turns Crabominable into a single energy attacker. With Karate Belt and Counter Energy, you are going in a single turn. That's pretty gosh darn good. You can't do that post-rotation. There is no counter energy. And now we're starting to run into problems. What the counter energy play is 1 turn during the game where if you're behind, you can turn it into a pseudo single energy attacker. The problem is you lose that. And you lose the Pokemon search. Now, the one I've not mentioned yet is Brooklet Hill, which along with Nest Ball and Ultra Ball makes this deck quite consistent. And that's why I worry about this deck post-rotation. The idea is sound, the Pokemon are staying, in theory it's great. But if you're losing Nest Ball and Ultra Ball and Brooklet Hill, it's going to be hard to search those Pokemon out. Now, I've given you some alternatives and they could work, but you're really changing up the deck. You're building it in a slightly different way. You're also losing counter energy. The other stuff I don't really care about, but the Pokemon search and the counter energy do make me a little worried about this post-rotation. I still want to show you cool decks, unusual decks, decks that are seeing success and winning, but by the same token, I've said that what I'm going to do is make sure that I'm telling you which of these decks will and won't survive rotation and why. And unfortunately, this is one that I really do think is going to struggle post-rotation. But I would very much like to know what you think about this deck, ladies and gentlemen, so please do let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Me nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WossiePlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't even have any Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.